Hello, welcome. As you can see from the quoted tweet here from Jamal Igle, comics is changing. Now, if I recall, this was being said in regards to Glenn, the store owner. Like, we're still talking about this, man. Somebody with skin in the game coming out and being like, bro, I can't sell your stuff is such a big deal that it's reverberating today. I keep seeing references, I keep seeing this popping up. And I thought this Twitter thread from Perch, which I've been sitting on for a while, was really interesting because he's kind of saying some of the things I'm thinking. And I just wanted to highlight some of this, all right? So, for starters, Jamal Igle's like, the industry's changing, kids, and blah, 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 blah. And the pandemic sped up change, which I don't know that that part is true. I don't know that the pandemic sped anything up. The pandemic just kind of made things weird for everybody and drove comic book prices through the roof because there was a lot of money and nothing to spend it on for some reason. Like, I don't know. I don't know, man. Collectible comics like doubled in price during the pandemic. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, the industry's changing. Guess what? The industry has been changing since the industry existed. Comic books used to be very different. Like pretty much every comic book used to be some kind of anthology book. They grew out of the tradition of like pulp magazines and that kind of stuff, where there'd be a lot of stories from a lot of different creators. It's just in a comic book, you got art to go with those. Then, as time went on, you had this huge diverse blossoming of comic books, romance books, crime books, yada yada. And then crime books died for basically reasons beyond scope, which we can kind of surmise as busybodies. Okay, after that, you pretty much just had superhero books. I mean, there were westerns and stuff all through the 60s, but by the time you get to the 70s, those other genres were pretty well on their way out. And all those left behind was superhero books. You get to the 80s, and what happens? The industry starts moving away from newsstand distribution and into these ghettoized hubs, the direct market, the comic book store where you walk in and you buy comic books, and that's all they've got, along with some merch. You get into the 90s. What happens? Because Marvel bought a distribution company and made like 17 other mistakes and went bankrupt, the whole comic book industry suffered. Stores couldn't get their stuff. Prior to that, you had the emergence of Image and artists go into Image and changing the style of comic books. The Marvel bit caused the industry to consolidate around Diamond as the only distributor of comic books, which kind of just locked everybody into this direct market order from Diamond paradigm. Along the way, comic books went from being anthology stories to single topic, like single character stories. Sometimes you'd have a book that was like a single character, and there'd be like a main feature and a backup feature. That grew rarer over time. It's pretty much a rarity now. I think the only company I can think of that's doing that right this second is Evolution in their crowdfunded books. Somebody else is probably doing it, but it ain't coming to mind. What happened in like the 2000s? The graphic novel boom. Everybody was doing graphic novels. Graphic novels were everywhere. Graphic novel this, graphic novel that. Along the way, people who didn't go to comic book stores forgot that comic books existed as a thing. You talk to people, and they go, huh, they still make those? That's a very common reaction. Then we get to the 2010s. What happens? We get the graphic, or I'm sorry, not the graphic novel boom. We just talked about that. We get the crowdfunding boom. Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Fund My Project, isn't that another one? Patreon. Like, there's all that kind of stuff out there. The model changed again. That stuff doesn't even go to stores. That stuff goes direct to customers. It skips the store entirely. Along the way, we've seen the format of comic books change 3 or 4 times. We've seen the distribution method change several times. We've seen the number of distributors. We've seen the storefronts change. We've seen the people involved. Comic books used to be something that everybody read. Now it's something that only like 40-year-old dudes read, which is crazy. You can't support an industry that way. But you can't have an industry without them, apparently, because every time that Marvel tries to not sell to them, the book doesn't do so great after a couple issues. Weird. Also in the 2010s, you had kind of the biggest stuff out there come out. Uh, like Dog Boy, Captain Underpants, that stuff, published through Scholastic. It is absolutely, completely, totally eating DC, Marvel, and Image's lunch combined. Those books have sold millions upon millions of copies. So no, the industry is not just changing in one direction. The industry is changing in so many different ways. And it's hard to be able to navigate that. But if anybody's saying like the industry is dying, which I've said that, in fact, I think I said that in a video I recorded not that long ago. They said the industry was unhealthy. Yeah, I think that the direct market floppy industry is kind of going to go the way of the dinosaur. I don't see how it can possibly survive when the individual unit price is so high, the amount of content in each individual unit is so low. Oh my gosh, like I think the Predator vs. Wolverine comic I bought last week, which has an absolutely terrible cover, cost $6 instead of 5. You're not ever going to get a kid to do that when he can spend $10 and get a volume of manga with 10 times the number of pages. The value proposition is just too bad. You're never going to get a kid to buy that issue of Predator vs. Wolverine. Here, hold on. I got it. You can see it. Let me... There's the Elgato. There, see? With his G.I. Joe action figure hip. Like, you're never going to get a kid to buy this, number one, because that's ridiculous. I bought it because it was stupid. And also, the price point is too dang high. That's it. The industry's changing. I don't know what it's changing to. Part of it is definitely going into like Scholastic distributing books, selling them at book fairs and stuff, making mega bucks for Scholastic, probably less for Dave Pilkey. Other people are making great stuff aimed at that market, and it's not really going through DC. Although DC does have their product line. In fact, I think was that one book that did really well? Prism, I think. I think that one did some pretty good numbers, but a lot of their other stuff doesn't. You go look on Comichat, it sells graphic novels the last couple of years, and you'll see a graphic novel sell like 1,000 units. Dogman or whatever it is, like that book sells 7 million copies. You tell me which way the industry's going, and I'll tell you it's the one that sells 7 million copies because everybody's going to want to try to replicate that success. Anyway, this is a pretty interesting thread here, and it just kind of sparked a lot of these thoughts in my head, and it took me a little while to kind of collect all this stuff together. You all have a great one. Take care of yourselves. I hope to see you again next time. Until then, bye bye.